Okay. Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Coach Brandy here. Excited to talk to you guys for Coffee with Coach Brandy. We've got the lovely registered dietitian Alma with us on a very, very important, very hot, very sensitive, very intriguing, very complicated subject, alcohol. We know it's 9 o'clock in the morning. We joked about how we should have mimosas, but we stuck with our coffee and tea. So she's going to dive in and talk to you guys a lot about alcohol, because I know, at least within the Feed Your Soul community, we've got women who are verbally advocating for, they want to feel better, they want to sleep better, they want to improve their body composition, or especially like belly weight. And alcohol really has a lot to do with a lot of that. And I think a lot of times we're pulled in different directions in society to, not drink at all. And like binge drinking was a thing in our past, and yet we want to have that social wine. And so it's very complicated and complex. And Alma's going to kind of talk to us a little bit factually about alcohol. And then at the end, we're going to kind of wrap it up like a little bit on the emotional level. So without further ado, Alma, the floor is yours.
All right. Yeah. So I'm going to speak on, so basically, yeah, like Brandy said, it's a heavy topic. So, and as we know, it's such a part of our like human social behavior, the way we connect with others. It has been, and it's been used from ancient times to modern times. So, and it's a way a lot of people like to unwind after a long day, or for others, it's more of a celebratory, special occasion type thing. So yeah, today I'm going to talk about like the benefits of it, because there are some benefits to it, of course. And then I'm going to look at some of the harmful effects. And then I'm going to end you guys with some fun, yummy alternatives to alcohol. All right, so some of the benefits. So basically, excuse me, heart health, as we know, I'm sure a lot of you guys heard about the correlation with heart health and red wine. Due to its antioxidant content, it does promote healthy blood vessels and lowers inflammation. Sorry, it promotes the health of it promotes the health of blood vessels. But red wine isn't the only beverage to do this, alcoholic beverage to do that. White wine, beer, and like higher quality liquor also have similar effects on the heart, as they reduce, gosh, I'm struggling a little this morning, guys. It raises good cholesterol, aka our HDL. And what this good cholesterol does is it transports excess cholesterol from the blood to the liver to hopefully then be excreted out of the body. And then another benefit to alcohol is that it can, in moderation, this is all moderation, by the way, I didn't say that in the beginning, it can improve cognitive health. So it can reduce diseases in the brain, such as dementia, things like that. And it does that by improving blood flow. And so it actually can promote nerve cell functioning in moderation. And this as well, since it's improving blood flow, it helps reduce the risk of stroke.
Before you go on though, really quick, that word moderation, I think, is critical. And so those of you guys watching, sometimes we create our own definition of moderation, especially based on like, well, I used to drink a bottle of wine 3 nights a week. So moderate is 2 glasses 4 nights a week. And so I think it's important, like Alma, from a clinical like aspect, what would you say would be moderate amounts of red wine or whatever it is?
I would say like a glass of red wine, maybe 4 to 7 days a week, 7 being kind of on the higher end. But like researchers and experts kind of, it's crazy, because it's defined in so many ways, even by like experts. Like some will say 3 drinks a day, and others will say 4 to 6 or something like that. So I think knowing your own moderate level, I think for me personally, it's like I'm not much of a drinker, but maybe like 1 to 3, but I'm just on the lower end because I've never been too much into drinking, and I kind of save it more for, like I said in the beginning, the celebration time. So it is still like that balance. And then for men can get away with having a little bit more, so they can have like 2 drinks per day. But if you think about it, that still adds up. That's like 14 drinks per week. And I would define that as kind of on the heavier end or moderate end, I guess, or heavier end of the moderate spectrum. So it's a tricky answer, but ranges are awesome. So I would say sticking within a range and kind of knowing what's a good amount for you. Does that
Yeah,
kind of answer?
I couldn't agree more. Ranges is important. I think if you pinhole yourself into like, I'm only supposed to have 5 drinks the whole week, if you have a 6th, you can get shifted into failure mentality and then the effort mentality. And then all of a sudden you've had 10 drinks because you went one over the one number. So I definitely, those of you guys who are watching, like a range would be good, and kind of getting used to setting your week as like a Monday to Sunday or a Sunday to Saturday, however you want to split it. But I think we all know in our own gut, like I talk to you guys a lot about like your personal ethics and like your personal core values, like what's too much and what's, compared to 0. And I think I love what Alma says as far as like really just listening to your body as well. And the last thing I wanted to mention on that, because this is such a big part, and it's a lot of conversation we have with clients of like, because a lot of people don't want to give up their red wine with their girlfriends or going out to margarita night with their spouse or whatever. And we get that. That's why we're not a community of like, you can never drink. It's not a no, it's not a restriction, it's a moderation. But I think being cognizant to quality that Alma talked about, but also quantity. So 1 glass of wine, those of you who are like, oh, I'll just pour me a 16-ounce glass of wine. Like, the big goblets that are out there. I think being aware of that is really important. So that's actually why I bought this really small, cute, adorable cup. It's got an elephant on it. And that's what I pour my wine into, because if I pour 5 ounces in there, it looks like a lot. If I pour 5 ounces in one of my husband's goblets, it looks like nothing. So I feel really bummed about that. So play that game with yourself, kind of like you do with the dinner plates. And I'll let you continue.
Yeah, definitely. All good points there. And I mentioned I will drink moderately throughout the week if I do, but I kind of mentioned the celebratory thing because that is still adding to the moderation, because when I am quote unquote celebrating whatever that looks like, maybe I will have like 3 to 4 glasses or whatever it'll be on the higher end, but because I'm not doing it that often, it still in a way like balances it out. And for me, saving the drinking moments for when it's like a special occasion type deal, or I'm really wanting to connect with a friend in that way, it allows me to be a lot more like present and enjoy it all the more. So that's just kind of like what works for me personally. And I just wanted to share that as a side note. But and then like we've been saying, so the quality is such a big part of it. And then although like red wine, is touted, I guess, for its health benefits, it's worth noting that you can find those same like antioxidant benefits from fruits and veggies. So any kind of like plant sourced thing is going to give you that. So it's not to say that you can only get that from red wine. And then other things to consider is that, sugary kind of cocktails that are high calorie mixed drinks and on the cheaper, low quality end can have the opposite effects on our health. So again, back to that quality piece. And like we kind of just said, quality over quantity is key. So looking for those high quality, minimally processed options with, less additives, less preservatives will help. All right, so those are kind of like the benefits I had. Now we're going to get into some of the side effects. So first being the liver, I think that's like where everyone's mind kind of goes to when they think about harmful effects of alcohol. So liver is one of the major detoxification filtration systems in our body. It just is such a vital organ to our health. It does so much for us. It's working on overdrive nowadays with all the excess, additives to our foods, the pesticides, like all the things that has to deal with on top of, just even environmental pollution, like all these things. So it's also working on getting rid of metabolic waste, allergens. So right now it's working on overdrive for sure with those seasonal allergies, getting rid of histamine and things like that, processing it and getting rid of it. So keeping all that in mind, and then it also has to filter alcohol, and it's very sensitive to alcohol. And too much of it can lead to buildup of fat on the liver, and this can cause inflammation and lead to certain liver diseases such as cirrhosis. So yeah, liver plays a really big deal when it comes to alcohol and the harmful effects in excess. And then the heart, I know we just kind of spoke on some benefits of moderate consumption, but on the other end of that, too much alcohol can cause irregular heartbeat, meaning your heart is going to work extra hard to do the things that it needs to do. So it puts a lot of strain and stress on the heart. It can also raise blood pressure over time, which can lead to heart disease, even heart failure, heart attacks, things like that. So, and then another organ or part of the body that's impacted is the brain. So that's again on the same thing as like the heart it can be beneficial in a way in moderate use, but then and in excess. Sorry, it's kind of loud right now in my neighborhood. But excess alcohol can, negatively impact the brain by, it impairs memory, short-term and long-term. It can have a very negative impact on mental health. So it can increase, depression, anxiety, things like that. And then digestion. So heavy drinking can cause inflammation on the stomach lining. This can lead to, abdominal pain, discomfort. It can also impact your body's ability to absorb crucial vitamins and minerals, which can lead to malnutrition in the long term. And then another impact that alcohol has is on the immune system. I'm sure a lot of you can relate to, when you drink a little bit in excess, you oftentimes will get sick the next day or the next week or something like that. That's because it definitely does weaken our immune system. So it leaves us more susceptible to infections and disease and viruses and things like that. And then the last thing I have here is that and the last negative impact I wanted to leave you guys with is that it is highly addictive to some people. And then before I get into like the fun last bit of the presentation, which is alcohol alternatives, I wanted to go over just some things to consider when you are drinking to ensure that it is done in like a safe way. So the first one would be knowing your limits. This is all based on, age, weight, gender, things like that. Stay hydrated. That's really important. This one's pretty obvious. Don't drink and drive. Don't really need to add that one, but I will anyway. Don't mix alcohol with medication. That's really important. And then of course, last is pacing yourself. So taking it slow. And then anything you want to add before I get into alternatives?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all know without pinpointing scientifically, the liver does this, the pancreas does that, the heart, the gallbladder, like all this stuff. We all know that if you really kind of drum it down, alcohol is a toxin that we're putting into our body. Like it's toxic. And so there's not a lot of really great benefits, but it's kind of, here's the emotional part of it. Here's the heart part of it, right? It's what we tell ourselves. You guys know that I talk a lot about the stories we tell ourselves, whether it's that story of like, well, I'm just not an early riser, or, I am this fat, lazy person, or I just can't eat salads, or I just can't work out at night. Like whatever these stories are that we tell ourselves, like, are true. And so it kind of goes back to that whole saying of like, if you say you can, you're right. If you say you can't, you're also right. So when it comes to alcohol, it's just really being honest with yourself about how it really makes you feel. And I would bet $1 million that if you were to take a piece of paper and write down pros and cons with alcohol, there'd probably be a few pros in that, like, it's fun for a little bit, like it lets you kind of let loose and it lets you be a little bit more social, especially for people who get like social anxiety. It does help kind of cut that edge. But the cons is crazy. And the older you get, I promise you, the more sensitive you get to alcohol. And I don't know about you guys, but I've really experienced, I have horrible anxiety. My depression has come so far. But when I've had consecutive days drinking, which these days, like 3 days in a row is a lot for me, my anxiety is horrible. My depression starts to come back. Alcohol is a depressant. So if you struggle feeling depressed, especially seasonally and stuff like that, really paying attention to what your alcohol intake is and then what that happens the next day and the day after that, journaling with it. It's kind of like food, right? Sometimes you might be like, oh, well, dairy makes me gassy. These grains make me stuffy, whatever it is. Alcohol is giving you these same types of symptoms. So you don't even have to go on the deep medical stuff that Alma was just talking about, but you can. It's really kind of surface level common sense to figure out, like, how does it make you feel? What it goes beyond the 20-year-old headache, hangover, throwing up type of realm. And it really does have an impact. For me, if I drink the next day, I'm so hungry. I cannot get enough food just because of the whole empty calorie thing. So as I've gone over the years with my relationship with alcohol, that con list just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And frankly, the pro list is really small. And it's to the point where it's like 20, 30-ish minutes of like having fun. And then within an hour, if I'm still drinking alcohol, I just don't feel great. It's that quick. And so everybody's different, but I really advocate for you guys to get in tune with yourself, how alcohol makes you feel from a pro-con perspective, and also just identifying what your relationship with alcohol is. There's 2 books I want to mention before Alma talks about some like sober options. There's a book I read called Alcohol Explained. And there's part 1 and there's part 2. And I only read part 1 because it really, like, it's boring as hell, but is very, very good at painting the picture about explaining alcohol and how it affects ourselves. Also, The Naked Mind, just being able to let your mind be naked and not having to have it impacted by substance, right? And so these are just powerful things that if you're, most of the people who follow us are 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and by the time you're in your 40s, you're really wanting to redefine who you are, what your health means to you. You're looking into your 50s and 60s, you're looking into these other decades, and you're like, well, how do I want to feel? And I can guarantee you that alcohol doesn't play a big role in helping you feel your best. And you know that. So that's why I wanted to break it down. So this is a great merge to bring it back to Alma to talk about. You are going to go to a social event. You are going to have people over. What else could you do as options? And go ahead.
Yeah, and like the really cool thing about being alive right now in 2023 is that like the sober movement is getting a lot bigger and bigger. I mean, there's dozens of mocktail options on the menu now. There's a million kava bars that are getting popped up all over the place, and even like coffee bars that are open late at night, things like that. So it's cool because I feel like it's not becoming so much of it's becoming more society, like accepted in society to not be drinking all the time or not always drink when you're being social. We're figuring out other ways to connect and be social with each other. Doesn't revolve around alcohol. And it's cool because then you can choose, right? Like you can go that path if you want to, or you can try this route. It's nice to just not feel so pressured, I think, is the biggest thing. Because a lot of times we don't always want to drink, but everyone around us might be, or there might be people like, hey, do you want some? I'll get you this, whatever. So it gets rid of that pressure. And to me, that's really awesome and cool. So yeah, I'm going to get into some alcohol alternatives. These are lists that I compiled of different like mood uplifting herbs, an amino acid, adaptogens, and non-alcoholic stimulants to choose from. These help us like connect with others, uplift our mood, like I said, and yeah, they're really, really cool. So the first one I have here is lemon balm. So lemon balm is an herb in the mint family. It is a mood boosting herb and it induces calm and alleviates anxiety, which is super, super cool. St. John's wort is another one. It's a plant. It's really pretty. It has like yellow flowers on it, and has been used as a mild antidepressant, actually. So pretty crazy how powerful these herbs are. L-theanine, which is an amino acid. It's found in teas and mushrooms, and it elevates levels of GABA, which is a nerve cell regulator, and it basically has like a calming effect on our brain. It also increases serotonin, which is mood boosting, and then dopamine, which is like the feel good hormone. So all these things are helping like improve mood, and then it also boosts energy levels as well. So pretty crazy. I don't know if you guys have seen L-theanine around in your supplements and stuff, but it's also used a lot of times in like pre-workouts because it has all those effects without having like a caffeine part of it. And then kava, just as I just mentioned, there's kava bars all around. They're really cool. I would definitely encourage you guys to check them out. Use it as like a social date next time with your girlfriends. Basically kava, it's a beverage made from a plant, and it elevates mood, well-being, and it kind of like induces relaxation. So really, really cool. And then another one, American ginseng, which is a root. It reduces stress. And then ginkgo biloba is one of the oldest tree species. So kind of crazy. It's another one that'll uplift your mood, and it also increase energy, which is nice. So it's kind of like cool to play around with these herbs because some of them are going to be, you know, your mood's a little heightened, but maybe you're relaxed and calm, and other maybe it's still uplifting your mood but giving you that energy boost. So kind of like play around to see which one applies to what your situation you're in. You know, are you connecting? Do you want energy, high energy with your friends and girlfriends? Maybe you're going to a concert, or is it kind of like at the end of the day type relaxing beverage deal?
Yeah.
And then any adaptogenic herb is basically going to help you adapt to stress. Excuse me. Rhodiola rosea is a popular one. And then last I have, you know, any caffeine containing herb is, you know, going to stimulate you, give you energy. So guarana, coffee beans, of course, yerba mate, matcha, green tea, black tea, chai tea, and cacao. The nice things about the teas like green tea and chai is, yes, they have that caffeine aspect, but they also have a mood uplifting aspect in the herb. So kind of cool to play around with that. But yeah, I just wanted to end the presentation with some fun little supplements and herbs that you guys can, of course, combine together and make a fun little mocktail, or maybe add to the, maybe just on its own. It doesn't even have to be in a mocktail or beverage. It could just be like in a powder or supplement form. And yeah, and then of course, all of this being said, if you are in any medication, be mindful of that in the interactions with these herbs, because for example, St. John's wort, I know is a big one that will interact with the medications people are on in a bad way. So you definitely want to speak to your primary care physician if you are in any medications for any kind of ailment. And yeah, that's kind of all of it.
Super smart. Yeah. I mean, obviously talking to your physician, a lot of you guys work with like holistic practitioners, looping them in is great. And I'll be the first to say I really enjoy the CBD beverages that are out there. And as soon as you start Googling non-alcoholic beverages, I guarantee you'll start seeing ads pop up on social media and in your email and stuff like that about all these different types of beverages out there. And if you truly are worried about like a caloric aspect, because obviously some people love alcohol, but they're also conscientious of the calories involved with it. There are a lot of these drinks that have 0 calories to them. And one of my favorite is the Lagunitas hop water. And so when it's summertime and we want to sit on the back patio and have a beer, that's what I have. It's 0 calories, has a really nice, refreshing, light crispness to it. And so there's just a lot of alternatives out there. And as Alma said, you know, it's really becoming a lot more known in society to back off and pump the brakes on booze. I think it's just comes down to us advocating and communicating to our circle, whether it's our friends and family, about what we do want to do and what we don't want to do. So don't be afraid to speak up. I can guarantee you one other person in your circle also wants to pump the brakes on it, and you guys can unite and kind of carry that forward. So we really appreciate you guys jumping into this alcohol talk today. If you're still watching or if you're catching this on the replay, drop below like where you're at with alcohol. Is it something that you've already quit? Is it something that you do in moderation? Is it something that you're working on because right now it's an excess? Like, what are some of the symptoms and side effects you feel with it? What are some of these non-alcoholic beverages that you've found with? But let's cultivate a conversation around this in the comments. Alma and I will be watching them. We're happy to answer any questions that you guys have. And by all means, like, we are not alcohol, counselors or alcohol advisors, but when we fold in soul fit nutrition coaching, alcohol and hydration and sleep, these things are all things we talk about, stress levels, all of it, which naturally, folds in with alcohol. So if you want some coaching that folds that in, that's a big part of our soul fit nutrition coaching as well. So we appreciate you guys coming in this Wednesday, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys next Wednesday as well. Alma, any last thoughts from you?
Yeah, just to add to, we're not alcohol educators and things like that. We're also not like alcohol haters. We're not saying like don't drink. That's why I did want to talk about the benefits and why there are a lot, or not a lot, but there are some good ones to moderate drinking. That's why I'm sure in Europe everyone seems to drink very moderately, and it seems to be doing pretty well for their health. So something to think about in terms of drinking moderately, just having those alternatives on hand, knowing what they are, looking for them in the grocery store. Like Brandy mentioned, it's not like you have to totally make your own one. There's a lot out there that are like seltzers that you can already like pour into a glass and feel fancy like that, that are easy and obtainable. And yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to add that there's still some benefits to it, and it's not all bad, but being mindful of the side effects and, like Brandy said, how it affects you on an individual scale is really important to tune into. And
Yeah, it's true. And I feel like that's what I was doing. I'm pulling up the comments really quick while I have you. Hold on one second.
Yeah.
Someone's commenting and I want to answer their question. Give me a second.
Totally.
So Kathy is saying that, or Allie's saying, yeah, alcohol affects my sleep, and especially as she's aged, and social drinking is definitely becoming a thing, like not to do it every social situation. And I think that's another big thing. If you have a big social life and if you're social Friday, Saturday, Sunday, drinking all of those times is really hard. So kind of picking like, I'll drink here and I'm not going to these 2 times or whatever, just to kind of bring yourself through that. And Kathy is asking if we can put a list of the herbs and non-alcohol beverages in there. Kathy will do that for you. All right, you guys, thanks so much for commenting. We appreciate the interaction, and we'll talk with you guys later. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. Thanks, Alma.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.